So this game is the newest Papa Louie game, Papa's Mocharia. There's been a bit of an update, so strat in here is a little bit obsolete, but I'm willing to work around that should this get accepted. So as you can see, we're pre-firing milk. This game actually legitimately released in March, so when I say recent is the most recent, there's a bit of a pause there on the recording. That was a bit of a thing on my end. What I did there was I was pressing the coffee grounds with the proper amount and everything. So generally for this one, you kind of just want, this is the part of the strat that kind of got a little bit updated. So what ended up happening was, notice how like there's less liquid than there's meant to be of 2 shots of milk and 2 shots of the espresso. Yeah, unfortunately they made it so the build score is also affected quite a bit. So now you actually have to fill it all the way up. However, I still had fun with this. I still had a bit of fun with it. So what you do is you build the coffee. You put in the flavorings as needed. The one on the left is the one you do first. The one on the right is the one you do second. If it's cold, you also put in ice. The things at the top are the things you put on top of your coffee, and at the bottom are cannolis that you end up making. Network issues, just like what happened in my initial run. So one thing that happened, so like for this, you end up having to kind of, for me, the strategy that I thought that I kind of had at the time was essentially the coffee doesn't matter how much you put in as long as you do technically the correct amount. So it doesn't affect nearly as much. Because even getting a 50% on a scored one category, as long as you get 100% in something else, you can still get 85 points or something like that. So like, see, 93 points. So what I ended up doing was I would put in less than was asked, like about a shot or half a shot. And that is what they're referred to in this game. Like that's not a, I hope that's not something that violates TOS for commentary for GDQ. But yeah, that's kind of how it works. So, see, pressing the coffee grounds, we kind of weren't able to see that initially, because the video paused for some reason. So here I'm actually prepping not just, the order of the first person, but also the order of another person, specifically, Alberto, because he's the one I ended up trying to get to come in 5 days in a row. You get someone to come in 5 days in a row, you get a medal, which doing that gives you about 300 points. Which is crucial for getting it in 5 days. So yeah, this is an order that involves using matcha in there. So like, yeah, notice how there's not a lot of coffee in there. Can't necessarily do that as much anymore. You can't do like a much more minimal amount, as the game will now ding you on the build score as well. However, it's not necessarily impossible. It's not necessarily impossible to do. But I would have to do some working around with it. But I'm perfectly willing to do that for the sake of should this get in. So yeah, we're doing Alberto's order again because he, like I said, we want to get him 5 days in a row. So we only need him to actually properly come in for 3 of those days. So we need him to come in on the first 3 days in a row. After that, we can have him come in pretty much whenever. We will be able to get a customer coupon, which costs $25. And you do get $25 at the end of this day, but it's much more viable time-wise to get it after 4 days. Like, send it to him after the 3rd day of doing the work. So as you can see, I'm kind of preparing the order for Tim here as best as I can. And by best, I mean not at all best. The ones that are sitting there, though, those are that's the actual order. That's the actual order for the closer. And you do kind of want to at least do that order decently well, as you only have so many points you can actually work from before it is legitimately out of reach to do within 5 days. So yeah, we're doing, I'm starting on the closer's order now for this. His order is very basic since he just does the coffee and then the milk. So one thing I do is I actually let the rest of it pour. You want to keep, when you're pouring, you want to keep it in that yellow space. You go over, you end up overflowing the cup a little bit and it spills outside of it. But doing it too little and you're not moving fast enough. So you want to do it in the yellow. So yeah, that's day 2. So now French roast is added, which means some people will change their coffee choice to French roast. So, for instance, Tim, who we saw in on the second day, his coffee choice changes from the City Espresso to French Roast. The first customer who appears when a new ingredient is unlocked generally also, however, is a person who actually ends up getting the new item, which is one thing always useful to keep in mind. So he also uses syrup at the bottom, which is one thing you want to keep in mind for him. Him and one other customer do this on this run specifically. So his order is fairly quick to make. It's quick and painless. And you make his cannoli, fill it up with, you get the chocolate one, fill it up with the regular whipped cream, and then you put in the pistachios. Yeah, and see, even though we got a low coffee score, we still got 90 points out of it. So in this game, compared to other games, it's a lot harder to get one that gives you points. But also, from what I determined, like, you don't need it nearly as much in order to get there. However, it does help to still have a special regardless. So we want to try to actually get a decent score for Austin here. Mainly because trying to get a decent, if you don't do it properly, you won't get the amount you need. And you do have to actually hit a certain amount. Because if you do it too low, you actually will end up missing out on the points. That's the thing. If you get a special, it essentially means, though, you know another one of the orders that will be coming in regardless, which is very useful because you can then have that set up and prepared properly. As you can see, I failed to get the special in this run. But we did get Alberto, which does help immensely. Because him coming in on the third day means we can now buy a customer coupon at the end of this day. So we can guarantee that he'll come in tomorrow. So one thing to note is that on the left side and the right side of the screen of the ticket, the one on the liquid on the left is the one that you will always put in first. Then you do the syrup that's on top of that, and then you start on the next layer. That's one thing to note for this game. Some customers do gravitate towards certain items in every game. So Alberto actually is, he very much likes to defer to strawberries very frequently in these games. So this is Ivy's order. We haven't ordered her thing yet, but she gets 2 shots of strawberry milk and then 2 shots of the city espresso. She also puts plum. It's like sugar plum syrup in with it. Which honestly, I don't. Some of the things they put in the Papa Louie games, some of them are just a little disgusting. That you gotta wonder, would they really do that? Like, for instance, some of the customers get pistachios on top of like coffee. Like, you gotta wonder, do people actually do that? Because in my case, I've never seen people do that. But I don't know. I digress. Anyway, so we send in her order. We already have the closers in. This is essentially I was trying to remember the order. I put them in the wrong place. Because I try to keep them left to right and everything. And I kind of forgot to do that. But, it happens. It happens. So yeah, this is Whippa. She's not based off of any specific celebrity, according to the devs. So whatever celebrity you're thinking she's based off of, she's not based off of any of them. Like, genuinely, that's according to what the developer said as well. Apparently, she's based off of spy movies from the 70s. Her brother is also a closer in this game. There's actually a dude in our community who is working on the full-on lore of the Papa Louie series. He's doing a whole thing on the iceberg, essentially, of it. He's doing one of those videos. Which, I mean, props to him for doing all that time and research. So yeah, we bought the customer ticket and we send that in to Alberto. Because that guarantees he's coming in. So what I'm doing there is you can actually, on the mobile games, you can essentially use both fingers and do more once. So you can do multiple things at once. This is actually the first Papa Louie game to not have a PC version, believe it or not. Because all of the earlier Papa Louie games all relied on Adobe Flash. So after Flash no longer was supported by anything, it became... The developers essentially decided to make an app. And it was really legitimately thought for a while, knowing that Flash was going to end at the end of 2020, that a lot of people were assuming the series was officially done. But then the devs actually came out and, yeah, they released this game. They actually released it a day ahead of schedule, too. Yeah, so we got Alberto on a 4th day in a row. Very useful. Because that means we are now going to get the medal when we send a ticket to him tomorrow. I had a little bit of confusion on where the chocolate syrup was. Doing runs for 2 hours in a row, and especially after, because I had a run earlier on this day doing this run where I had already gotten it in day 5. However, my run ended after, unfortunately, I ended up not being able to get it captured because my stream actually ended up crashing because of network problems. I was so furious. One of the former record holders, Cloud, for this game, he actually... he was, like, unfortunately kind of there when I got really angry. So was another dude in our community. I'm really sorry to them for that. I just, it was a very rough time. Because it would have been the first run to be finished on day 5 had I pulled that off. This ended up being the first run as well that finished on day 5. This happened later that day. It just took a little bit more waiting. but at least it was worth it when I did finally get it. So as you can see, Dino kind of orders a large order. I don't agree with that, so he's getting not as much. He still gave me 84 points, though. Yeah, so we got Janana. We're going to kind of do her order. Her order, honestly, would be quicker to get 5 days in a row compared to Alberto's. The only thing is, I never seemed to, like, even in practice, I never seemed able to actually get her to show up 5 days in a row. I couldn't even get her to show up, like, 2 days in a row. Because her order would be faster, but still, getting one of them 5 days in a row is better than nothing. So yeah, send in her order real quick. 91 points despite the minimal amount of coffee. You can't do that on the closers because the closers will actually destroy your score if you do that. Like a 71 on any category means, yeah, you're probably getting somewhere in the 70s on that score. The closers are a lot less forgiving, unfortunately. So yeah, this is Patrona. She's apparently, I think, a nurse. She doesn't really seem to dress like one, but yeah. She's the closer, though, for this game. She's a new closer that debuted in this game. So yeah, we go and we get the customer coupon. We send that to Alberto, which means he's coming in 5th day in a row, which means a chance to get the medal as long as we do his order correctly. So one thing to do for this one is to not even take Kingsley's order. Kingsley's the dude who appears first on this day after you get rank 4. You actually don't have to do his order. It's actually a lot more time viable to not start his order until you pretty much have it completed. Like, and by that I mean don't take his order, because for this, people will call in pretty much immediately after you start the first order. Customer 2 immediately calls in, so it actually is a lot more helpful to do Kingsley's order and then actually give it to him pretty much immediately after taking it. But just having it all set up immediately. So for these, you kind of have to. Some people will do it from memory. I personally use keep a notebook of what everyone's orders are and follow from that. Though with repetition in time, you actually will generally have the orders down, because there's only so many customers that can appear in a run. But this one being the newest, they definitely allowed for a lot more people to possibly show up during a run. It's almost like they kind of prepared for people to speedrun this, because they also added way more specials that can be given. Like, I think you have like 6 to 8 specials that you can be given on day 3, compared to like 3 in every other previous to-go game. So yeah, we have Alberto's order, though, which this also means we're going to be getting more points, because this will be the 5th time we'll have given him an order. And as long as the amount is generally over 80, you can get a star. So this will be his 5th star. So 288 points, which, as you can see, if you saw it quick enough, I only needed 270 to properly, pass. Which means I couldn't necessarily phone it in like you could for doing runs on day 6, where you could essentially, after hitting the mark, you could throw the rest of the run because it doesn't really matter too much. But here you actually kind of do need to still do the order relatively correctly. So yeah, we do Janana's order. The goal is essentially to try to just get at least 90 on all 3 customers, or even just get an even higher score on a specific customer, and then as long as it adds up to 270, basically. So yeah, we got 94 points. James calls in. It helps to often have a certain type of milk, which the regular milk, or as we like to call it with the little flame icon next to it, we like to call it spicy milk in the community as a joke. It actually means warm, but we like to say spicy milk because it's funny. So I'm letting the milk kind of churn a little, the coffee get in a little bit, just for the sole purpose of having something in there. So that's why I also prepared his cannoli ahead of time. And then we pour in the coffee there. And then we put on the butterscotch whipped cream. And then the shaved chocolate. Give that to him. And then all we have to do is the closer. So because we got a 92, we just need about an 84 to properly complete the run, which for the closer, since they grade harder, it honestly helps to just kind of do it as correct as possible. So this is Quinn. Fun fact, she's actually the only character to appear in the Papa Louie series and only be a closer, besides the one that's a food critic, which makes sense. So yeah, get that precise. Put the cocoa powder. Do her cannoli that has the strawberry whipped cream, and then also pistachios. Ew. Anyway, give that to her. And then 95 points. That means we hit that. And then we wait for the rank 5 to appear. So the timer stops when you see it. And this is when time stops. The final time ended up being a 23:12.